Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Quest. This is episode 58, and we have an amazing guest full of wisdom. He's a reflector in human design, so he has lots of deep wisdom in there. And we've had him on our podcast before, and we're excited to have him back. Thank you, Chris Carlson, for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's
Thanks
up,
for
man?
having me.
Yeah.
So, last time was full of interesting stuff. I mean, we could have talked forever. I think that went over an hour the last time we talked, but we're going to focus on just a few things today. We'd love, because I've been watching your Facebook post and I know that you are just soaking up so much information that I want to soak up too.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that it's like pushing boundaries, and I mean, I love out of the box stuff, so does Cisco. So we let the conversation go wherever you want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be, as I go through this journey, it seems to be what I came here to do is to kind of push those boundaries and to kind of, I don't know, like kind of trigger people into these different, states of mind, kind of step out of the box a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a journey to see that in myself and to be really comfortable and people kind of judging or not understanding and being completely okay with that and just moving forward with what I do.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know, I speak for Cisco too, but when we met you in Costa Rica, which is how we know you because you came to our retreat in Costa Rica, and I felt that energy from you for sure, that you were kind of like soaking up any information you could get, any experiences that were happening, and you were at this point in time where you didn't care if anybody judged you or what they thought. You're just here to release it, what you're learning, and whoever's there and ready to hear it will hear it and learn from it, and whoever's not will they'll
Yeah.
go the other way. So tell us, what have you been up to this last year? What kind of deep wisdom have you come across that you could share with us?
Yeah, so as let's say the last year I've really been diving into the dream world, or what people call astral projection,
Mm.
and these things. And as I started to dive into that reality, I started to experience things that kind of brought up a lot of things that when I was a child, but um, I was able to like remember things on my way back, because there's always this veil of forgetfulness that people will talk about. And that's just, it's the same thing when we come here. When we're put on this planet, we go through that veil of forgetfulness, and that's why we don't remember our past lives, and we don't remember these things, so, or who we really are. So what has been taking place is I've been going into the dream world, astral projecting, and then slowly being able to retain that memory by writing it down and dissolving fears within inside of me and limiting beliefs. And as I started to do this, I've been able to get further with these astral projections and really bringing back the knowledge. Like, we're always doing that. Everyone's always astral projecting. It's not something, that I have that someone else doesn't. It's just that I've really focused my intention and dove into it, because we're all doing it every night. But it's just being aware and conscious of that.
That is so
So
cool. I just have to
yeah,
pause for a second because
yeah, yeah,
astral projection is a word that I was so fascinated with in ninth grade. I
yeah.
bought a book on it and I was like, I'm going to do this. And I never thought I did, but you're telling me that I have.
Yeah, you every night you do it. It's just
Cool.
it's these fears and limiting beliefs that keep us unconscious from um being able to remember it when we come back. Like when you come back from a dream and you lay in bed and you remember it, when you're just awake, you remember it better. But as the day goes by, it's the exact same thing with astral projection, because it's the same reality.
Wow.
So So yeah, so what has been taking place is I started to dive into that, and I started to get information of what I like needed to do. And I ran into a guy. He goes by J Griff, and his name is Jeremy.
Okay.
And he teaches about common law. And so what I was, because my line of work, um, I knew that I was taking a shift. I was being pushed into really exploring this, what people call the matrix. So it's the matrix, but it's like the matrix inside the matrix. So not talking about the matrix all around us, but the matrix that these so-called families have created.
Oh,
They created this game that we're in, that we're all
yeah.
playing, except we never got the rules to actually play this. So everyone's running around playing this Monopoly game, but they don't have the rules. And what I'm kind of here to show is, because when I first started this journey, I moved out to Florida. I had bought a bunch of land. I started growing my own stuff because I was against the government, and I was against these, um, these controlling figures. And although I still have, I still believe, they're not obviously the best people, or they don't have the best intentions. They still have to abide by karma. So they still have to play the game, or they'll just suffer from their karma. So they have to put these things out there for us. They have to give us the information, but they don't have to tell us. So it's kind of that rule where, well, if you're uninformed, it's your own problem. It's right here. And in fact, everything that I'm about to talk about and everything that I've learned comes from government websites and government bureaus and these things. So
Interesting.
yeah, so what the game is the game is, in the shortest sense that I could probably kind of condense this, is we get to wear two hats. We get to be the player, the game piece that they created, which is your all caps name. So anytime you get something in the mail, it's all caps. It's not like my name is Chris Carlson. It will say all capitalized Chris Carlson. A bill will never come in your name and be lowercase. So that's our piece. So our piece is the all caps name. And they created that through our social security number. So the day we were born, they created the social, and that social security number is actually your access to the bank. So in a little bit of history about it, is in 1933, the government went bankrupt. So, and that was kind of under the radar. So they went bankrupt, and the United States went from a country to a corporation. So we don't live in a country anymore. That's the crazy thing about all this, and that's where it gets hard for people to really digest. And all this is easily, you can find this pretty easy online.
Wow.
But when you start digging into it, a lot of it is kind of hidden, but you can find everything through codes and through acts, such as like the Tilla Act, or so it's called the Truth in Lending Act. It's called the Tilla Act, or there's the UCC. So it's Uniform Commercial Codes. So these are all government websites. So they created these after 1933 to actually help us. So the government is actually, they do have pieces of the government that actually teach us this and help us play this game properly. So people like, President Trump, for instance, that's why he doesn't pay taxes, is because he's using his piece properly. So basically, what you do is you apply for the credit, or you apply for whatever it is, a home loan or a car, whatever the credit is. You go into the game as the game piece, you apply for the credit, then you exit out of the game piece, you change your hat, and then you go and you discharge. There's many different processes. There's a discharge process, and there's what I don't like to call it this, but they call it it's the coupon. People refer to it as the coupon. And what that really is that's the receipt that, or the bill that you get in the mail, which no one really gets anymore. And this is the reason why they took it away, is because they don't want the paper trail anymore. So that's why everything is gone automated. So anyone doing this, that's the first thing you do, is you get rid of the automated system, and then you get the bill in the mail. So this way, I've only been applying this into my reality for like the last 3 months, this whole coupon thing. It's called, the best word for it is a registered security. And as long as you start using these words like registered security and using their words, which is funny because that's how they got away with all this, is because they taught us Webster dictionary, but they go off of Black's Law dictionary. So everything, all the words are kind of flip-flopped. So we are actually the creditors in all this. We have the credit through the Social Security. And how that works is because, like, you look on the back of a dollar bill and it says, "In God we trust."
Yeah.
That is not anything to do with God. It never was to do with God. They fooled us, but that's the actual trust that they created. Once the United States went bankrupt and we lost the gold standard, they had to create a trust for the United States. So you can look all this up. You can look up the United States, the EIN number. If you guys know about EIN numbers, you can go look up the EIN number of the United States and see that it's not a country anymore. It's a corporation. So it's just for profit. So that's why everything that they do is to make money, because it's a business. It's not a country anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just really about, so you go in as the game piece, you use your social, and then you acquire the credit, and then you go and you either discharge it, or you use the coupon method and you send it in. Because also, everything that you get in, every bill that you get in, there's never a negative. There's never a negative behind it. It's always in a positive form, and they do that strategically so that we don't really question anything. It just kind of slips by the radar. But that it's actually a positive amount, and not to go into that would just take too long. But when you get the bill in the mail, they're actually sending you the it's not even a bill. They're sending you the positive amount, and they're giving you an option. They're saying you can either discharge this, or you can pay if you would like to and give us more money. But they've already been paid. So the minute they run your credit, so say if you're going and getting like a $50,000 truck, the minute they run your credit, they just accessed the "In God We Trust." They accessed the account through you. So that's where I say you're the creditor. So you hold all the power. And you can look into these things like a bank. We think a bank is supposed to be the lender, and we're the debtor. But if you go into the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, the federal law, nowhere in there does it say a bank can lend. It's fraud. Banks cannot lend money. So they use the banks as like a third party to kind of trick this situation. And then they use contracts. And then once we don't know who we are, and we take that piece and we contract our piece to the bank, well, then we're locked in. Then yeah, you can't go, and you can't, you're gonna get in trouble, right? So that's why when I started to dive into this, it took me 6 months to actually believe that this reality was true. Not only that this is true, but it was hard for me to digest this information because it was so much, and it was hard for me. Luckily, I had, someone to kind of guide me through this. So it took me 6 months to really have it click. And that's studying every day, like 8 hours a day on this, because
Wow.
you have to remember, you have to go back and learn their language. So you actually have to go back, learn the language, deprogram yourself. And that's why this is all spiritual. This was probably some of the deepest spiritual work I've ever done, to not pay a bill, because I'm literally living this lifestyle and I'm fully in this. I'm fully not paying any
Wow.
bills at this point. I'm going after like 4 vehicles. The only thing I'm not messing with right now is my home, because I'm just not comfortable. I'm on training wheels on this. So I'm not an expert in this. I am not a pro in this. I'm I'm only like 3 months in actually applying this, maybe 4 months in on applying it, and almost a year in learning it. And really, that's when it started to click for me. Is the first time I discharged it, I got a $15,000 credit card. I discharged it within a few weeks, and then I got the letter confirming that it was discharged. That it's out. There's no record of it on of it anywhere on my. Yeah.
So explain what discharge means again.
So discharge means to delete, to basically pay off or delete the amount. So if you got a $15,000 credit card,
Okay.
you exercise your rights and then you discharge it. And the only reason why you have to exercise your rights is because no one knows about what I'm talking about. Even the
So,
people on the other end of this, the people on the
okay.
phone. Yeah.
So you discharge it. Does that mean you're paying it or you're canceling it?
Canceling it. Yeah. So we're not liable for any of our debt. All your debt's been paid for. Your house, your mortgage has been paid for. Your credit cards have all been paid for. The minute they run your credit, it is instantly paid for. What they're doing is they're accessing your credit, because they're a dead entity. So they're a corporation. So your little game piece, and the people you're dealing with, the credit card companies, they're corporations. So it's a dead entity. It's called like a dead speak. So corporation. So they use all of these etymologies of these words to get by, because they understand words are spells. So they've casted spells through all of this, and they created this game through spells. So they use all these water words. So like you can tie the Bible. Jesus was here literally teaching us this. So law, LAW, is the law of the land, the law of the air, and the law of the water. God, we're supposed to be the law of the land, but they've tricked us and put us in the law of the water. So that's why they use all these water words like cash flow, banks, and all these water words. So they've tricked us and they've put us in the water. So we're all just out here trying to swim in the water without any paddles or any floats. And then they tie in the mailing system. They tie in the courts. Courts is another one. So so they use all these things to trick us and to contract us. And that was another thing I had to really learn, was I had to go deep into contract law to kind of rip apart these contracts. And like I said, there's different variations. Some people don't even care about the contracts and they just do this coupon method. Like I know a guy who literally pays every single one of his bills by just endorsing it. So you endorse that little paper that comes in the mail that says what you owe each month. You endorse it because it's literally a check. That is the check. So they're just tricking you, thinking that you must pay again. And so you endorse the check, you endorse that coupon like you would a check, and then you turn it in, and it processes. But when you do that, you have to do it to the CFO. So you can't just take that and then send it to where you normally would send the bill, because then they'll just trash it. They don't know what to do with it. Literally, the only people that know what's going on with this are the CFOs. Like, I don't even think the CEOs of these companies, maybe they do. But it's the CFOs that are the ones that they're the treasury direct of the companies, so they have to know what's going on. So, but even then, like I've even sent letters to them and sent things to them, and they'll deny it. So it's basically a game of back and forth. It's it's a tennis racket game, because they're gonna and that's why it's literally for like not even like 1% of the population that aren't ready for it, because you're going to send things in and they're going to deny it. Of course they're going to deny it. That's their business. They've been lying this whole time. They're not going to just, this isn't just so easy. It becomes easy once you know the language, because then you can exercise your rights. So what you're doing is you're basically just building a case. So anytime you send something in, they deny it. Okay, that's fraud. I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to go, because there's like literally 100 different ways you can go about it. So then you just kind of pick the best next process. You take that letter, and every time you send them a letter, you're contracting with them. So you're recontracting. Anytime they open that, now they're under contract with you. So we're always contracting ourselves every day. We're always unknowingly, we're contracting ourselves by opening every piece of mail you've just contracted yourself, if you don't respond back to that mail, if it's important.
Yeah.
So
So
that's why, yeah.
all these questions are coming up right now. Okay. Well, first of all, these CFOs of these companies, we're talking about like credit card companies, banks, anyone we owe money to, right? And
Yep.
are these CFOs like of
Every,
ET's white hats
oh,
or black hats or whatever, are we talking these are people from outside of the earth that are living as humans playing this game, or
I think that's very possible. I definitely believe and understand that reality. But I think like what happens is like the smaller the corporation, the less they know. So you know how it's like these elites, they own like, you know, 90% of the banks, So those CFOs they answer to, these elites and stuff like that. And they're the ones, they only give these CFOs just enough information to have people play the game. They don't. I don't even think like the CFOs fully. I mean, maybe it's. I don't even know if anyone knows or if anyone can even find out. So it's kind of more like hearsay, and it's really hard to know. But
so when
I
you
have I have only talked to one person in probably hundreds of people of talking over the phone, because I just talk to these people over the phone just to get better at my language. And I've only talked to one person that's like, oh, I've heard of this. I know what you're talking about. And so really, and so sometimes it might go all the way to litigation. Like this could go, you could like, especially if it's like a house or an $80,000 vehicle, they're going to probably push it all the way. And you got to know how to exercise your rights the entire way, or you're just gonna flop at the end. And that's why some of the most intense spiritual work I've ever had to do, because the fear that comes through the body when you get these letters, or when you want to,
yeah.
you're sending out one of these things, or you're exercising your rights to the CFO of this huge corporation. And it's like it has progressed me pretty quick in my nervous system. Like I could feel my nervous system just going through these upgrades, having to do this. And that's really why I did this, is because that's just part of my journey, is to just you know do try everything I can, and understand the layer of this onion. I explain it like we look at the top of an onion. I might have said this before. When you cut the onion in half and you're looking down at the onion, and you're in the middle, and you have all of these avenues. You can do plant medicine, meditation, breath work, yoga, this common law, the Bible. And what people do is they just take one or two paths, and they think that that's it. And then they go and they'll create a podcast, and this is it, this is the way, when they're forgetting that there's so many layers of this onion. And then inside each layer, you can go as deep as you want in each one of these layers. So what I do is I go back each time, and then I'll go through another layer, and I'll try another layer, and I'll explore that whole other layer, instead of just saying, because that's what it's about, is we all have the pieces to this. Like I only have tiny piece of this puzzle. You have a tiny piece, Cisco, and what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to come together, express our pieces, and then you take what you like, what I just explained, for your reality. We all are living in we're from a completely different lens. And then we're sitting here arguing with each other saying, this is the way, this is right, this is way, but they're all right. They're all right. And it's just taking the pieces that, I want from Sharon, I want from Cisco, and I like this from this person, and you take that and you use it and you run with it.
Yeah, I
So
love that. I agree.
yeah.
I
Totally.
do with people. Like
Yeah.
I've always surrounded myself with elderly people.
Yeah.
Wise person who's lived a little longer always has something to say, whether if it's a messed up situation, there's a lesson there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lesson in every single relationship, every single experience. I've even found a lesson that, like, going into a coffee shop and communicating with the cash register or something like that. There's, even in those little pieces, you can, if you just explore it, you can find something. That's why, I'm huge into relationships. Like, if I have a trigger through some sort of person, or I have an emotion or a reaction, instead of me running from it, I'll invite that person to dinner. I want to be triggered so that I can feel what's going on, so that I can get out of that reality. And that's how we do it.
Yeah.
We go into, we feel that trigger, we work with it enough, and then that reality stops playing out for us, because our awareness is not paying attention to that reality anymore. So then new thoughts will come, and you pay attention to that reality, and then your reality will shift. So that person that was constantly triggering you doesn't, if someone, is triggering you with something, and you correct that issue with inside yourself, the 5% of that person that was triggering you will stop doing it. They'll continue doing it to other people, but they won't interact with you like that anymore. Or you'll just exit out of the reality. You're gonna get rid of them, right? So
Yeah, that
that's
is reality transurfing. Have you read that book or
what
heard of that?
what is it?
Reality transurfing.
Mm-mm.
They talk about that, and they use the word pendulums as these pendulums trying to suck energy out of you. That reminds me, like, if somebody's triggering you, you either accept it and go with it and kind of like do something different than the pendulum expects. Like a friend's
Mm.
mad at you and you're like, oh, let's go for dinner. You're doing something
Yeah,
different, so you're breaking up that energy.
yeah, I like that. That makes sense. Yeah, totally.
So good.
So,
And I've always loved that about you, because the last time we talked, I remember you saying these kind of things too. Like, you just jump in and you just want to learn more. So if something comes up that's a challenge, you're just like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. I want to learn more through this challenge. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
like when I was first explained this reality, like, since I've been explaining to people, I have yet to have maybe like one or two people that are like, oh my God, tell me more. Because their ego just completely rejects it, because they don't seem to have this ability to kind of just set your ego, or set your beliefs, or whatever it is, set that aside just for a second, and just listen. And not only that, but I implore anyone and everyone to prove this wrong. Like, that's what the person did for me. Is my teacher said, I prove me wrong. Spend months, weeks trying to prove me wrong. And that's what I did in the first week. And there was not one way that I could prove him wrong, because everything that I would say, he just brought back with a code or an act. And I was just speaking like, I wasn't speaking laws. I was speaking statutes and how corporations deal with their manner. But I could never speak of a code that he could, take and not rebut. It was, I didn't even stand a chance. And so that's what, that's super crucial, is to have discernment and not necessarily fully believe what someone's saying, but to explore. And that's what I do, is if I hear something wild, I'm gonna explore that. I'm gonna explore that until I'll feel all the emotions in my body. You know, if there's something going on in my body, I know something's going on. I know if I get chills or some sort of reaction, I know there's something there. And then I'll go and I'll start to explore it, and I'll try to rip it apart or piece it together, or you know, through these whatever avenue that I can.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You know,
that's, you know, that's what I would leave, you know, for people for sure, is, you know, if this resonated at all, or like you're done paying bills, or you're just at a, you know, you're tired of, you know, feeling like a slave, and or you're mad at the government. There's like, um I challenge you not to be mad. Because I was that person. I was, you know, money is the root of all evil. And that was literally the reason why I couldn't create money, or that I was just at this level, you know, like I could never get past this certain amount in my bank account. And a lot of people will realize that, like, shoot, I've never gotten up to like $100,000 in my bank account, or 50,000 or 200,000 in my bank account. It's always maxed out. That's just your limiting beliefs in the way. That's all it is. It's just a limiting beliefs, because money is energy. And if you're not vibrating with money, you're not letting that money flow, and you're just hoarding it in a savings account, then your money is just going to be stagnant, and it's not going to move.
That's so
And
true. Yeah.
yeah, so, you know, it's really our fears and our limiting beliefs that stop us from accessing this reality. When I can I can guarantee you it's as real as can be, because I've already had um what's the word I'm looking for? I've already had um I've already had it be paying off. So I've already had, you know, things discharged, and I've already had, you know, this whole coupon thing. I'm seeing results from it. So, you know, no one can come in and tell me that it's not real, or that I'm going to jail, because it's like, I'm literally reading this from the government. The government is actually the one who got rid of that first credit card that I did. I just sent complaints in. It's called CFBP and identity theft report. Those are both government websites. All I did on my first credit card is I went and I filed a complaint with them and a complaint with this government bureau, and then they went and got rid of it. That's it. I never had to do anything in the mail. I never had to do nothing. I didn't have to communicate with nobody. Zero. And so that's what was like, okay, that's it. It's on. And that is not how easy it's going to be all the time.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I've, you know, realized, because this is all spiritual, is whatever fears you have and limiting beliefs you have, you're going to see that on the other end. So you're going to get the person on the other end that's going to give you a hard time or be rude to you, because you have that inside of you. So like when I speak with these people, I'm super nice. I'm calm. I get my nervous system relaxed. You know, I let my adrenaline rush calm down. I don't, you know, I'm super nice to these people. And then when I do the letters, it's not about being rude or being mad or being upset, because these people don't know. These people don't know what's going on. You can't be rude to them. They think you're crazy. but you know, that's why it's all done in the mail, is because you get these letters to like the CFO and all these other people that do know what's going on, and then you'll get your answers and stuff.
So,
question.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You did this credit card, right? So once you know, get your debt, everything is, the ties are cut. Is that what you're saying? Like that you no more longer have that card, you know, I'll just straight up cut ties. It's been paid off. You know, but does it mess with your like credit report or anything like
No,
that?
so it's not. So the biggest misconception about like Equifax, Experian, we call these the bureaus, but that's just another trick that they pull. They have nothing to do with the government. They have nothing to do with the bureaus. They're actually just corporations. Like if you created some business and started, you know, taking people's information, now you can start one. You can be Equifax or Experian. So these are just normal people that started up these businesses, called themselves bureaus, and then that gives us the fear, like they're attached to the government or anything. So the government's on our side. These people actually have zero They don't have anything on their side. There's no codes, there's no laws that protect them. It's all for us. Every bit of it is for us. So, yeah, what were you saying? Did I answer that?
Yeah.
So,
My question is the ties get cut between you and
yes. So yes. So and another fraudulent thing that happens is the minute you get a credit card and then they report your information to these bureaus, these Equifax Experian, that's identity theft right there, because they just gave your personal information to a third party that has nothing to do with you. And on top of that, it's your credit. It's yours. You're in charge of that. So you have every right to call these people and say, take this off. I don't want that on. Even if you have a $15,000 credit card that's being reported, you by law have all the rights to go and say, get this off. I don't want this reporting on my credit anymore. The only reason why it happens is because they pay these credit card companies for that information. So that's another reason why it's fraud, because they paid for your information. So that's really how I got out of that first credit card. Is the minute they reported to Equifax and Experian, I called it was identity theft. And we think, so that's the whole trick, is we think identity theft would be someone coming and stealing our credit card or stealing our information and using it to go open a credit card. But that's not what it is. Identity theft is anytime your information is brought to any third party. So everything that's on your credit report, you by law have to have written, they have to ask for written permission to have that on your. Have you ever gotten that? I've never had Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion asked if I can put this on your credit. Can you sign this so that we can put this down? No, never. So, but again, even, these people, when you call Experian, Equifax to get these, they don't know. They think you're just crazy too. So you have to send, that's why it's all done in the mail, and court is done in the mail. So that's what this is actually, court. When you're sending things into the mail, you're actually going to court with these people. And 90% of the time you can handle all of this through just the mail, unless they really want to push your buttons. But that's why you build a case. You keep every single one of these. You do everything registered mail so that you can bring back everything to a green slip. And then by the time it gets down, if the racket ball went back and forth, and then you were just done playing the game and you had enough proof to just destroy them, then you just say, all right, here's everything that I've collected on you guys. Here's all the fraud you've committed. You have 10 more days to rectify my injury, or we're going to litigation. And that's typically like 95% of them will drop it at that point, because they know they can't bring this into the public. They don't want this information to go into the public. Once you go to litigation, you go to court with these guys, you go to federal court, it brings it into the public, and then people can start to be aware of this. So you got to remember also that they've already got the money. They already got the money, so they're just double dipping. So they don't really care if they let it go, because it's like, we just didn't get that guy. That guy figured it out. So they already got paid.
Actually, my ex-wife did something like that. I co-signed like $20,000 worth of student loans for her. And when I got divorced, she quit paying it, right? So then they were coming after me, like, you signed on that, this and that. So I called her. I said, dude, I signed this under good faith when we were married, hoping you would pay it back. Dude, she freaking did her due diligence, took the contract that she signed, read it front to back, and
that's what you got.
Found a loophole. It was probably like a 30-page contract. Yeah. Found one little loophole, sent that loophole to them, and I got a letter in the mail said that I am exonerated, free of paying
nice.
$20,000. I was like, there I go. I don't know. It was
that's because every contract is fraud. Every contract has fraud in it, and every debt has fraud in it. So all debt is fraud, and all contracts are fraud. You just have to go, and that's just another way you can go and fight them. Is you can just start ripping apart the contract, and then null and void the contract, and then they got nothing. And then you call Equifax Experian, say, do not, if you have these guys report on my information anymore, then I'm gonna take you guys to court. They don't mess with you. They won't let them report to anymore. So they can't report to you, and then they can't get you in trouble anymore. And then you send them a cease and desist. And once you send them a cease and desist, they can't talk to you anymore. What are they gonna do? Nothing. There's nothing they can do. So there's so many avenues, like literally 100 different avenues you could take to not pay your bills.
Dude, actually, do you know? I mean, I'm sure you know of Michael Berry. You heard of that guy?
Michael Berry sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Can't
He
picture
is
it.
True at actually getting out of it. Like he's like filed bankruptcy like 6 times, but he has a radio show, and that's what he does. He helps people with those loopholes of like getting through, like being in so much and filing for bankruptcy, and then like getting
that's
out of
part
it.
of the game. Bankruptcy was put there so that we could play the game. So what you're supposed to do is you create a business that you want to have money roll into. So your actual business, the one that you care about, and then you create a secondary business. This is just another way you can do this. You create all the debt, you put it in so the secondary business creates all the debt. You acquire every little bit of debt, but you're paying all the bills, you're paying all the things you need to buy for this business. And then you just collapse that business. You bankrupt that business, and then everything goes. So in one shot, you can get rid of everything.
Actually, I used to, as a bike messenger that I was for 12 years, I filed a lot of bankruptcy, like individual, whether it was corporation or individual bankruptcy. And like, dude, they put a law into effect probably like in 2005 or something. They made it a little bit harder to file bankruptcy. But I remember, dude, the federal courthouse was off the chain, dude. Like everybody was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna file bankruptcy and eliminate everything, you know, all
why don't people file for bankruptcy? Why? Because they don't want it on their credit report. Exactly. But that credit report is that's your job to get it removed. So you can literally get that bankruptcy removed in 48 hours if you want.
There are companies that advertise like, hey, we can do that for you. You know, there's businesses that, you know, you pay for their services to get stuff credit. Yeah. Like a cycle of
And I tell people, you know, don't do that, because you have all the power. We hold all the power. It's just like in the spiritual world. The minute you go and you ask a psychic to read you, or you don't, you hold a grudge on somebody, they're holding all of your power in that moment. You're the guru. You have all the power. It's your credit. It's just a reflection. So yeah, the minute you start taking charge of that, and your whole reality will change, and then you'll start being empowered. Like I have this crazy sense of empowerment now. Like you could take everything from me today. You could empty my bank account. You could take everything from me, and I can come back now. And that's empowerment. Like I've never been able to say that, because it's like I've created this business as an electrical contractor, and it took me 10 years to get to this point, blood, sweat, and tears. And now, but I could do, now that I have knowledge, and it's not just about knowledge, it's about applying the knowledge. I don't think knowledge does nothing unless you apply it, for sure.
That's the damn truth, dude. And
that's amazing.
As I see Sharon do it, I'm seeing you do it. You know, I'm just a trainer. Like when I speak to people about what I actually put my brain into and absorb, like it's like I'm channeling or speaking tongue. You know what I mean? But knowledge that I learned that I want to share. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But go ahead.
This is fascinating, and my defined throat is like wanting to talk so bad. Okay, so okay, so I'm just trying to get this all straight in my mind, because this is fascinating to me.
It's not easy, for sure.
And I want to learn more, and I want to ask you about how people can learn more. But so are you saying that basically the government, okay, and you did say this, the government was created to help us at the beginning, obviously. And so when we get into this after COVID and everybody's, half the country's like anti-government now, including me. Um, so you're saying you've come back to this place where like, oh, well, there's ways of working with the government because the side of the government that was structured to help us, but there are still entities working within the government or in the, I guess the government is a corporation. Okay, so there's still entities that are preventing us from, when I say
Oh
entities, I
yeah,
just keep thinking this is all like,
yeah.
extraterrestrial stuff going on is what I'm
No,
thinking.
for sure. You're. I mean, the government definitely has no. The only reason why we are protected and they do what they do is literally because of karma. If karma didn't exist, I don't think they would have ever be here to help us out. I think they only put this here for
Ah,
themselves. So yes, I do believe everything that they do is for themselves, but because of karma, we're able to live this reality. I think if it wasn't for karma, yeah, they wouldn't let us play this game with them. There's no way they'd let us play this game with them.
I see.
So I definitely am not, saying anything good about the government, but I think what people can start to do instead of, focusing on these bad parts is the best way to change our reality is to start focusing on the good stuff. So if people can start, doesn't like we don't have to go and have lunch with these people or be buddy
Right.
buddies with the government or believe in what they do, but we can access the things that they have given us because really uh because of what's been created, we're like it's everything, all the credit is ours. It's all ours. Like what more could we ask for? What how much more beautiful can it get to be able to get anything we want and discharge it and have the government pay for it? I mean, I
It's
don't know
fascinating.
anything.
And
Yeah,
we're not talking like, I mean, because we could go into the whole thing of people that are living off of welfare and they're not working or doing anything for themselves because the government's just paying them to live, you know?
right.
That's part of like the system. People, they do their due diligence to get that stuff. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? There are programs out there in the government to help you get assistance. And
Yeah.
during that was happening tenfold. There were so many government programs. If you wanted to do your due diligence and get some of that, I knew several people that were doing that, like for their companies. It was
Yeah.
like a company thing, the government was helping a lot of companies, but you had to apply and do all the reading, the stuff that, they wanted you to comply.
And that's how they weed the people out that are just
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
that want to be a slave. You want to be a slave, then go be a slave.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a famous quote that's like, if you want to hide something, put it in a book, and that's what we live. It's like everything's in a book, and if we don't go read,
Yeah.
we're not gonna be able to access truth.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good one.
That
I
is,
mean,
Yeah,
but
this
it
is,
makes sense if you want to. Yeah, you hide it in a document. Like a lot of people don't understand attorney talk. Like that's why you hire so he can put it in layman's terms for you.
yep,
So,
yep.
ah, this is fascinating. So are you going to be teaching a class on this? Because I would totally
Yeah,
sign up.
so I've actually just started this coaching program where I'm being trained to be a coach. And I'm definitely going to apply this because this information is not for everybody. I really don't think most people, the majority of people, um, can really take this information. So it would be so what I'm doing is I'm kind of just being a coach in things like health and things that I really am, because you got to remember I'm just on my training wheels on this. Like I don't know if I'd feel comfortable enough charging people for this yet. But what I will offer is I will offer to point people the door and do things like this for I'll probably be doing things like this for the next like 3 months until I'm fully, aware, understanding this to where I can actually teach this. And then, yeah, eventually I will be, I think, because credit's not going anywhere. Even if the CBDC takes over and we go in, there's credit is never, we lose the dollar bill, credit is still there. So this is probably going to be in our life for a long time. So I think it's going to be, as we awaken and we evolve, I think there's going to be a huge need for this type of information, and people
You're
are really
right.
going to want to, not be tied into the CBDC. And then that's when I'll probably jump in and really start charging
Yeah.
um, and
I
being
mean,
a coach for people that way.
yeah, this way, what you're all talking about is part of the shift where we're not dealing with banks anymore. Um, like we're not dealing with all that
Yeah.
financial technical stuff anymore whenever, this shift happens, right? So like
Yeah.
it's like all of this, you spreading this word is part of the process of us getting there, because if it just happened all of a sudden, we're like, this is the way we're living, then like you're saying, your nervous system would just go haywire. And so
Right.
we
I
have to
think you would just fry. Yeah.
yeah. So we're
For
being
sure.
led this, and you're part of that mission. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
dude.
you.
I
Yeah.
can. I pay attention to a lot of what you're talking about. I mean, you're bringing like a whole perspective to it, like a different perspective to it than what I've heard it in other ways. But I understand what you're saying, but I feel like there's just way more you can talk
Uh,
about.
I could talk
Oh,
hours. I can
I know.
really talk about hours. Go into the history, because really you got to dive into the history, the real history. There's
Oh, that's why.
what's called introduction to your straw man, and Jekyll Island. So Jekyll Island is where they all went and met and created this whole Monopoly game. And so you kind of dive into the history, and then you guys have already been doing a lot of the spiritual work to, deprogram yourself, because like the biggest thing is deprogramming yourself and removing all of the lies that we've been taught. And then going back and relearning all this information, literally relearning a whole different dictionary, and then going into
Oh,
contracts. So it's like, it's a process. You can't just, like, no one can just take what I'm saying and go with it. Like, there's no way. Like, I would never recommend that to nobody. You're going to get in trouble. You have to learn, take months of learning this before you want to apply it. You want to be able to talk like I'm talking right now to someone
yeah.
before you would want to apply it.
All right. And so are you talking about this on you have your YouTube channel, right? Are
Yeah,
you talking about
I
this on
haven't talked. I've literally just been talking about this as of a week, because I've
Oh,
just felt comfortable being able to, like, if someone comes at me with something, I can rebut it pretty quick now. But that didn't just happen up until really recent.
okay.
So I have my YouTube is actually, what I do on my YouTube, just to briefly, just to tie it in, is I just I embody my knowledge through my YouTube. So I'm basically speaking to myself. So I'll go and I'll just express myself. It's a form of expression. So I go on my YouTube, I express everything that I got that night through my dreams, through astral projection, through my meditations. I'll express what I learned through downloads. And then, because it's not embodied yet, just because you learn something, it's not embodied yet. And then I'll go back and even just me talking it, like talking to you guys, I can embody what I'm saying, because you guys will ask questions, and then other things will click, and then
Yeah.
boom, it gets embodied into me. So really, my YouTube is just to embody my knowledge and information. But I will be, after I'm done with this coaching program, I'm going to be going full in on my YouTube and actually starting to
Cool.
uh yeah.
Yay. Well,
Yeah,
we're so thankful that you shared this knowledge with us today.
Yeah,
for
dude.
sure. I appreciate you guys.
I really do. I want to hear more. So,
Yeah, and I'm willing, just from the bottom of my heart, just to get this into people's hands. Like, um I'll talk to people about this, just yeah, out of my own, my own time. I'm not going to be charging anyone for this for at least a few months. So like,
And your
if anyone
experience,
hearing
I
this,
mean, I want to know about all of the experiences you're having as you're actually living it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, I would love
yeah,
to read or hear you talking about it somewhere. I don't
yeah, yeah. I could start doing just some videos, and you guys could check them out. I could do that.
Trigger, you know, like I've always associated that word, like when people say trigger, like people usually get upset, you know,
Yeah.
or in my perspective of the word trigger, but trigger can be like all kinds of, like, it can be a positive thing.
Emotions, yeah, totally, yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
could trigger you to ask
Well,
questions.
it's like I was
exactly,
before, it
totally.
kind of triggered me that, but like, I don't know, I just, you know, for being married, there were just things I had, you know, counseling and therapy and all this, like, you know, they always use the word, which mean like, oh, something bad happened.
Mm.
No, you use that word as a positive connotation to, you know, to make it good. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? You to
Yep.
understand, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally. Well, thank you so much,
Yes. Thank you
Chris.
guys for having me. I appreciate it.
This has been
Maybe next
amazing.
time we'll talk about the
Do
astral projection.
a part, yeah.
Yes.
Part two, yeah.
We need a third one because I am interested in astral projection. Like I told you, in ninth grade, it was all I was so intrigued with it, and then I
Yeah.
gave up on it as a manifestor.
That's something I could teach like right now. I could teach that to anybody right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. I have to do another one on that.
for
Yeah.
sure.
All right.
Cool.
Well,
All
we
right.
said 30 minutes and it's been an hour.
Yeah, I figured it was gonna happen.
I knew too. So we're
Yeah.
very grateful for you. We'll let you get on your night, and I will put your YouTube channel on the show description here.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All
Bye,
right, Chris, we'll
I'll
Chris.
talk to you in a bit. Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.